Rock as a commercial titan in music is dead in the water. Those days are long behind us because with the exit of big rock albums also came the absence of rock songs charting on the Hot 100. I went down a rabbit hole recently looking into rock album sales and how they've declined over time. And obviously this is the case with any genre because people don't really buy albums anymore, except for apparently the 50% of you crazies out there buying vinyl without a turntable. People like to use the argument that just because rock albums are not topping the albums chart worldwide, that means it's no longer a popular genre, because touring statistics and the revenue generated would definitely tell a different story. Despite rock, or at least guitar and alternative-oriented music, making a return, at least in some ways that echo the past in the 2020s, has been a positive thing, but it also hasn't brought about a pure rock album that really did something out of the norm and also subsequently became a commercial juggernaut. As we continue gaining distance away from the 2000s, it's interesting to look back at that time period, almost like the extinction of the dinosaurs. One last hurrah for rock music, because obviously the 90s were huge, the grunge movement and multiple other genres like nu metal that began to take over, but by the end of the aughts, things were trickling out. Bands were not performing all that well. Their albums weren't selling well. Realistically, rock's last huge swing for the fences that actually connected and delivered a chart-topping hit single to boot was Viva La Vida, or Death and All His Friends, the 2008 album by Coldplay. With production of the record being handled by the legendary Brian Eno, with some incredible side characters in the form of Rick Simpson and John Hopkins, among others, you have an album that is so full of life, such a gamble on so many different levels. How many times do we get an album, Viva La Vida, something that translates long live life, a French revolutionary term? How many times do we get a French Revolution topping the charts? I think I can say with confidence that probably only one song exists like Viva La Vida. It's such a unique composition, and that stylization made its way over to the rest of the album with its very urgent impending themes that connected war, love, and everything in between. While Coldplay are of course an English band that routinely top the charts in their home country, Coldplay were also massively popular worldwide, including in the States, and Coldplay debuted with 721,000 copies of Viva La Vida sold its first week, just 16,000 off the pace of X&Y a few years prior. X&Y remains in the top 5 fastest selling albums ever globally, and that is an insane feat. But to come back with an album that takes such a curveball, such a dramatic left turn, both in terms of shooting for the stars with the concept of the album, and also the compositions themselves, ranging from the extremely colorful opening to something as bleak as what was technically the lead single, Violet Hill. Even stateside, where this album debuted in a very competitive week in 2008 alongside the likes of the Camp Rock soundtrack, that was a massive phenomenon back in the day. Katy Perry with her debut album, One of the Boys, The Offspring, Judas Priest, none of them stood a chance as this album devoured the competition. As someone who became a Coldplay fan in the X&Y era thanks to songs like Talk, I found this album to be such a breath of fresh air even for my young mind. But what's gotten better as I've aged and I'm now in my 30s, this is an album that holds up thanks to its much more mature reflections. The lyricism is finessed to the nth degree thanks to Chris Martin actually putting in that extra work. The album cover is so striking and stoic. It leaves you with this painted image that quite literally portrays a lot of the inner conflict running throughout the album's monologue. The album track list is filled with twists and turns, and it also thrives thanks to its final section that combines several hidden tracks to make for really enchanting lullabies. Even reading through the track list now, opening with the incredibly life-affirming Life in Technicolor done alongside composition from John Hopkins, Cemeteries of London is already a massive shift, and it feels like the perfect song for autumn. And from there, we go into Lost, which is great in all of its forms, no matter the punctuation. And then with 42 and Lovers in Japan, we see Coldplay take some of their biggest gambles ever with longer songs, compositions that are much more sonically rich. But then we move into the cornerstone of the album, Violet Hill, the song that single-handedly converted a lot of Coldplay naysayers into full-blown fans. This, in my opinion, remains the best song that they have ever crafted, although they've definitely given it a run for its money with tracks that even follow on this album alone, Strawberry Swing being so fantastic and lush, and Death and All His Friends with the hidden track at the end, just really putting the perfect cap at the end of an amazing story. One thing was clear, and that was that Coldplay were done sitting on their thumbs, remaining this band that people would point and laugh at and would make jokes at, like the boyfriend got dragged to the concert with the girlfriend. Those jokes were starting to leave them alone at that point because of just how incredible and invigorating this album was. With a highly successful tour, with a great theme and concept, the outfits were always on point. Looking at footage from that era still feels so fresh. It felt like they were marching to the beat of their own drum, but using history to kind of fill in the gaps and make things shrouded in a bit more mystery. With this effort, they combined everything from slicing guitar riffs to atmospheric euphoria, dark passages that really highlighted Guy Berryman on bass. I think this band are incredible when they have the right songs in front of them, and it was clear that having a producer as iconic and as revered as Brian Eno really helped them push this album across the finish line to be something timeless. As much as some of you are not gonna like me holding this over your head, name another album that's done this well and has spawned another single as successful as this that's topped the Hot 100. It hasn't happened. What I'm trying to say is that even with some impressive sales figures along the way from the likes of U2's No Line on the Horizon that almost did 500K in 2009 to even more recent efforts by the likes of Slipknot and Tool that have topped the Billboard 200 stateside, it's just that Coldplay's immense success with the album selling over 700,000, it has not been replicated by a rock act in any way since then, and with a Hot 100 number one single to boot, this just really packs in the fact that Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends in 2008 cemented the end of a rock juggernaut era. What do you guys think about Coldplay's massive left turn that definitely paid off critically and commercially? Let me know in the comments down below, hit that like button for good luck, and subscribe for the love of music. More Coldplay videos on screen. I just so happen to think this is their best album, so you can catch my review of it right here, and I'll see you soon for more on Beyond ARTV.